All right, today we're diving into a really powerful idea. An idea that literally reshaped a subcontinent and gave birth to a nation. We're talking about nationalism, and specifically the story of how it freed India. But first, let me ask you a question. Do you think people have always felt this deep love and loyalty for their country? That feeling we call patriotism or nationalism? Well, the answer might actually surprise you. It's no. This whole idea of intensely identifying with a nation, the way we think about it today, it's a pretty new invention. We're talking like only about 200 years old. So, if it's so new, where did it come from? Well, our story actually starts not in India, but way over in 18th century Europe. There were these huge economic shifts happening that were creating a totally new kind of society. So, what was going on? Well, think about the Industrial Revolution. Suddenly, you have factories pumping out tons and tons of goods. To sell all that stuff, you can't just have a patchwork of little local territories. You need a big, unified market. And that need pushed for a common language, a common education system, and all of that created a shared national culture. All of a sudden, people started thinking of themselves not just as someone from a particular village, but as English or French. Okay, but the story in India, it was completely different. Indian nationalism didn't grow out of some economic boom. No, it was forged in the fire of standing up to a common enemy. And you can see the core difference right here. In Europe, nationalism kind of grew from the inside out, driven by economics. But in India, it was a reaction to an outside force. It was an identity that was born from this shared experience of being ruled and, yeah, exploited by the British. So for the very first time, you have people from all these incredibly different regions. I mean, speaking totally different languages, with different religions, and they all started to realize, hey, we're all in the same boat here. Their main common interest? Resisting British rule. That shared struggle, that was the real heart of Indian nationalism. Now, this massive idea didn't just pop up overnight, right? It was actually built on three main pillars, all connected to each other. So let's break them down. First up, you have cultural nationalism. And this one's a bit of a paradox. It's really interesting. On one hand, you had reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Roy saying, look, we need to reform our own society from within. We have to get rid of harmful practices like the caste system or sati. But at the very same time, they were fiercely pushing back against the idea that modern had to mean Western. They were fighting to protect Indian culture from just being swallowed up. The second pillar was economic nationalism. And honestly, this was a total game changer. Thinkers like Dadabhai Naoroji came up with what's now called the drain theory. And this wasn't just some vague feeling like, oh, we're being ripped off. No, this was a detailed, systematic argument that Britain was literally draining the wealth out of India. And the core idea was so simple, but so powerful. It was this: Britain getting richer and India getting poorer weren't two separate things. They were happening at the same time, because of each other. For the first time, people had a clear economic argument that British rule wasn't helping India modernize. It was a system designed to make Britain rich, period.
And the numbers, they were just staggering. According to the nationalist calculations, something like 1/3 of India's total savings was being drained away to England every single year. Just think about that. This wasn't an abstract theory anymore. It was a number people could point to, a disaster they could get really, really angry about.
Okay, pillar number 3, religious nationalism. Leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak were smart. They knew that to get a real mass movement going, you had to connect with people where they lived on a deeper level. So they took existing religious gatherings like the huge Ganapati festival and cleverly turned them into platforms for nationalist ideas and anti-colonial messages. It was a brilliant way to mobilize tons of people. So you've got these three powerful ideas brewing: cultural, economic, and religious. The next logical step? To take them from theory and put them into action. To turn ideas into a full-blown mass movement. And in the 20th century, that's exactly what happened. These ideas just exploded into action. It kicked off in 1905 with the Swadeshi movement, a huge boycott of British goods. Then, in 1919, you have Gandhi leading his first nationwide protest. The momentum just keeps building with the massive civil disobedience movement in the 1930s, and it all leads to that final, powerful, unambiguous demand in 1942, quit India.
I mean, just look at the Dandi March in 1930. Gandhi's genius was in protesting a tax on salt. Why salt? Because literally everyone needed it, rich or poor. It was the perfect symbol to unite the entire nation. And you can see the result here. His march was like a single spark that lit fires of protest all across the entire subcontinent.
So this incredible decades-long struggle, all fueled by this idea of nationalism, it worked. It forced the biggest empire the world had ever seen to back down. But the final outcome? Well, it was anything but a simple victory. Yeah, the end of the story is, well, it's both a massive triumph and a heartbreaking tragedy. The triumph, of course, was monumental. In August 1947, India was finally independent, but it came at an absolutely terrible price. The tragedy was partition. The country was split apart on the basis of religion, creating India and Pakistan, and it unleashed just immense violence and one of the largest, most painful migrations in all of human history. And so that leaves us with a big question to think about. This powerful, really complicated idea, born all the way back in the 19th century, it led to both freedom and fracture. So how do the echoes of that idea, the good, the bad, the triumphs, the tragedies, how do they continue to shape the subcontinent and the lives of over 1 billion people, even today?